Hello, my friends. This is Dr. Ginny Barrow. After trying to get to my destination to deliver my keynote, 5 hours, 7 hours of delays, hoping that my flight will leave Newark Airport in New Jersey on time or at all, it all turned out that the trip was canceled. The actual flight was canceled. And during the time that I was there waiting to go on this trip, where I would deliver a keynote for the Women in Healthcare Leadership Summit, I found myself noticing how I was feeling and what I was doing. And I want to share this with you because there are so many times when life throws us curveballs, and when we're not ready for them, it turns out that we show up in a way that we are not really proud of at the end of the day when we look back and reflect. And also, it takes us through a roller coaster of negative emotions that we can potentially avoid and learn from the experience rather than let that experience take us down. I know many of you may be going through very tough situations right now. I do not take that lightly. I'm using this very simple example of being at the airport and getting canceled, getting the flight canceled, as a simple example of how it shows up in our real life. I speak a lot about mindfulness, about being present, about self-management, which is one of the aspects of emotional intelligence. And it's one thing to talk about concepts intellectually, and it's another thing to put them into practice. And when I was at the airport and I found myself feeling frustrated, getting a little bit angry and impatient because I wanted to get to Charlotte so I could get to my destination in Asheville, North Carolina, I looked around and I said, what are my options here? What can I do? I noticed what would happen to people across from me who were getting agitated and starting to curse at the people at the counter who were giving them the facts. There was bad weather in Charlotte. And also people who just kind of sat back and chilled and were waiting to see what would happen. And I noticed that at the end, we all received the same news. We all were impacted in different ways. And there were some of us that were very agitated and some of us who kind of just stayed calm. And so this is what practicing mindfulness, self-awareness, self-management looks like. As I waited in line with other people to figure out what my options were in terms of what other flights I could take, and the line was horrendously long and slow, I began to get creative and I began to think about, okay, if I get to Charlotte, what will be my options once I get there? I have a cousin who lives there. I gave her a call and I told her what was happening and looking for her guidance because she travels a lot for business. And I also realized that the timing was going to be off because I would get to Charlotte at 1:09 a.m. if the flight that was delayed were to leave as scheduled, which it didn't. And I thought, the airport is literally closed that late at night. The car rentals are closed. And I was finding myself in a pickle. But I created the idea that, okay, let me call the hotel nearby the airport and get a room so that I can at least get a couple of hours. And then let me call Hertz and let me rent a car so that I could drive to Asheville from Charlotte in 2 hours. And if I get there at 2 in the morning and I sleep for 4 hours, I can pick up the car at 6 and I can leave for Asheville and be there by 8 for my 9:40 a.m. talk. All of that was constructive because I was trying to figure out ways in which I could make this work. But it all was predicated on me being able to leave Newark Airport and get to Charlotte. So when finally they canceled my flight and said there is no flight out of Newark to go to Charlotte, that's when I knew that all the hopes were gone. And at that point, I became more creative around, let me reach out to the event planners and figure out what are the options. Maybe I can swap the time slot that I was supposed to speak in the morning with someone who's supposed to speak in the afternoon. And that way I can leave the next day in the morning and get there and make my keynote. The other option was, is there a virtual option? Can I speak virtually? And the answer was yes. There's another speaker who was not able to make it, and we can make this a virtual event for you. And so that was it. That was the solution. But we tried. I gave it my best, and that's all that I could ask of myself. Similarly, I want to bring the focus back to you. What are you going through right now that could be very difficult and crunchy? And I know that it sometimes has to do with your health or a loved one health. There's little that we feel that we can do other than do our due diligence, check in with multiple sources, make sure that we get different points of views from different experts or doctors or people who do this, right? This is what they do for a living. And then we get to pick the best choice that we believe is aligned with our values and with what the outcome that we want based on facts, right? Based on facts and what we are willing to put ourselves through or put our dear ones through. And that's all that we can do. So I bring this insight to you today from a place of love, from a place of forgiveness. And if you're going through a difficult time emotionally for whatever reason, know that you're not alone, that there may be people around you who are there to support you, and they're just waiting for you to say, we're here for you, just like you would be there for them. So if you're feeling emotionally drained, if you're feeling sometimes like you're a failure or that things are not going well for you for whatever reason, that you reach out to people who love you and they will give you support. So this is my message for you today. Start the day with Ginny. I hope that you find courage and encouragement to move forward from today to the next day. The sun will always come out tomorrow, even though it may not look exactly the way that we want it to. Hang in there. We're all here with you. Live with purpose. Live with joy.